and was unhappy as leader of opposition. Azikiwe, on the other hand, was in a figurehead role, similar to the Queen's role in England today. In fact, Azikiwe had only joined with the MPC because Festus Okotie-Eboh had forced him to. So who was Festus Okotie-Eboh?
Minister of Labour and Welfare, Chief Festus Okotie-Eboh.
Among her audience is Chief Festus Eboh, Minister of Labour.
Festus Okotie-Eboh, who once increased the duty on imported shoes to protect his own shoe factories.
You know they touch money, but money go they miss. Your 5 accounts, they don't fool for Swiss. You they chop and you think say they no go notice. Waiting you they do bad and you know this.
Okotie-Eboh was in charge of financing the NCNC party, a role which gave him a lot of power and eventually led to his appointment as the Minister of Finance for Nigeria. No one really understood or questioned how Festus was able to raise money. But according to Harold Smith, this money that he raised came from UK multinationals who were forced by the Foreign Office to make donations to the NCNC party. Given his control of such funds, it is no wonder Okotie-Eboh was powerful and was able to force Zik into a coalition. Zik had always financed the party, but as he was running out of money, Okotie-Eboh was fast replacing him as the key person behind the party. Hence, British propaganda, which was evidenced by the fact Okotie-Eboh was pointed out in every film about colonial Nigeria, was that one day Okotie-Eboh would replace Zik and they would have their man in power, as they've done in many other countries in Africa. But let's not be too negative about the man. He did have some positive achievements. He was responsible for bringing Julius Berger to Nigeria and directly responsible for the Echo Bridge getting constructed. Unfortunately, his wheeling and dealing also represented the beginning of the corrupt practices that have continued to dog Nigeria to date. But let's get back to the main story. Nigeria's politics were clearly divided along ethnic lines, and due to the number of seats held by the North, no major parliamentary decision could be taken if the North opposed it. For the South, it was clear that the only way they could enter power was either through a constitutional amendment, which was highly unlikely, or through violence. The creation of the Midwest state, led by Dennis Osadebe, on August 9, 1963, also highlighted another issue, that of the non-homogeneous makeup of the South. The Midwest was home to the Edos, Urobos, Ijos, Isekiris, Isokos, and other tribes. The three-region structure largely ignored these and other minority tribes in Nigeria, so creating this state was positive as it brought a new voice to national politics. However, the negative impact was that it made the North even stronger. Other developments also added to the strength of the North. In 1962, the leadership of the Action Group was split as a result of a rift between Awolowo and Samuel Akintola, the Prime Minister of the Western region. The ensuing fight sparked rioting in the Western region, and the federal government declared a state of emergency. They then appointed Dr. M.A. Majekodun as a temporary administrator for Western Nigeria. Dr. Majekodumi's first act was to place many Action Group leaders under house arrest and then to launch an investigation into Awolowo. A special commission led by Justice G.B. Coker found that Awo had used public money to finance the Action Group and also uncovered evidence linking Awo with a conspiracy to overthrow the government. Awo was immediately charged with treason. Some other prominent Nigerians were also charged, including Anthony Enahoro, Lateef Jakonde, and Josiah Olawoyin. Most were found guilty, and Awo, along with several others, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. With all these dynamic politicians in prison, public confidence in the political and judicial system was seriously weakened. By 1964, when new elections were to be held, the situation was quite bad. Civil abuses were widespread. The flamboyant lives of some of the ministers made it clear that public funds were being diverted for personal use. Most constituents saw little benefit accruing to them, but instead saw a complex patronage system emerging. In Parliament, the AG had more or less disappeared as a result of the Awolowo affair. This meant that there was no formal opposition party. The NCNC, on the other hand, had strengthened its position as it now controlled both the East and the Midwest, the latter which had formerly been controlled by the AG. The MPC was in close cahoots with Samuel Akintola's new NNDP party, which now controlled the Western region. So it meant that the first elections since independence was essentially contested by two large alliances, one led by the MPC and the other led by the NCNC, essentially pitting the North against the South.
Politicians and press are already electioneering hard. Some observers say that the main parties in the three coastal regions will gang up against the North. This could put a big strain on Nigerian unity. Supporters of the Nigerian press say its vitality and vituperation are the great safeguards of democracy. Critics allege that it forgets the cause of building a united Nigeria in its eagerness to slam rival personalities, parties, regions and tribes. The Zik who's so angry, incidentally, is Dr. Ezekwe, who is now, as ceremonial president, supposed to be above party. He's been provoked beyond endurance. Behind this lies ill feeling between northerners and the Igbo tribe of the eastern region. How serious is this press war?
Well, this is not a very serious matter. This is a matter that happens in every country. You get odd controversies taking place here and there. I think all the leaders are at one to see that the unity of the country is maintained. And therefore, naturally, you get the tail of every party trying to drag the party one way or another. But I think once we leaders come together, I'm sure everything will be resolved peacefully.
This was a high-stakes situation. The North wanted to ensure that it remained in power. The South wanted to ensure that it tasted power. On both sides, there was massive vote rigging. It was so bad in the Western region that there was intimidation and outright ballot box stuffing. In the West, fights erupted, with an estimated 2,000 people dying in the violence. So it's 1965. The army is watching all of this from the sidelines, and is getting increasingly frustrated as they see the elite fight each other for power. Due to the ongoing violence in many parts of the country, they have been deployed to police elections. They watch as people stuff ballot boxes, and common Nigerians ask them to intervene, ask them to stop the chaos and the violence. All this caused the nerve to snap in the minds of the younger officers, and was directly responsible for the first Nigerian coup.